Who'd have thought it's the 3rd of December today and we have got clear blue skies here in Vancouver? Like, that just baffles me, because when I think of Canada, I think freezing cold temperatures, snow like up to here, snow plows everywhere, and we have got the complete opposite. I know it's like snowing in other places like Montreal and Toronto, but that's one of the reasons why I moved to Vancouver, because I don't do very well in freezing cold temperatures. It's kind of like the same weather as the UK, which actually brings me onto the topic of why I'm creating this video. I've had quite a few people reach out to me recently about the move, wondering if I've got any advice I can give them, because a few people are also considering moving abroad. So I've got 1,000 things that I want to say. I've typed up a ton of notes on my laptop, so I'm just going to go through the questions and hope that it can help in any way possible, because if there's one piece of advice that I can give, it's to move country. It's hands down the best thing I've ever done. Not to say it hasn't been a challenge. It has been so difficult mentally in so many ways, but equally it's something that I would never ever regret. Best decision ever. So the first question is, why did you move country? So back in 2022, my other half was headhunted for a job in Germany, which meant that we both had to quit our jobs and move over there from the UK. When we first moved, I had to enter on a 3-month work visa, and if I didn't find work within that time frame, I then had to leave the country, and that's exactly what happened. I work in PR, so a lot of the companies that I was interviewing for required that I speak German. Even if I had tried to learn on Duolingo, there is no way I'm picking up a complete new language in 3 months. So annoyingly, I then had to leave. I was gutted, because I feel like I still can't even really say that I lived in Germany, because I don't know about you, but 3 months just doesn't feel long enough. But anyway, when we moved back, it kind of sparked something in us to then try something different. I think it gave us that confidence to realise that it wasn't actually as scary as we thought. I think because we were still so close to the UK, the time zone wasn't that different. The flight was like an hour and a half away, so the move in itself felt quite easy. So before we just completely gave up on the idea of trying to live in a different country, we were like, where else could we live that feels a little bit more like home, and we would have less pressure on the job front in terms of learning a different language. My brother actually lives in Montreal, and he's just got his citizenship. He's been living there for 5 years, and he's always said to me how much I would love Canada. I had only ever visited Montreal before, so I had no idea what Vancouver was like. And when he told me about like the job opportunities and what life could look like over here, I was like instantly sold. We also love the idea of like living somewhere new. We never really knew where home was in the UK. There's a few different towns and cities that we love the idea of, but there weren't really any that we felt like we wanted to call home. Plus the idea of settling down just felt too much pressure, too much commitment, and I wasn't ready to make a move like that just yet. So we then decided to move country. What have you found hard about moving countries? I think the first thing, which I knew going in anyway, is the time difference. So we're about 8 hours behind, and when I reach out to family, I tend to speak to them around 9 AM Pacific time, which is around 5 PM UK time. And then when I think of what I'd be doing at that time back home, I'm like, okay, I'll either be coming in from work, cooking dinner or something. And that's one of the things that I find hard, because there's nothing worse when you're about to sit down and eat your dinner and then someone wants to FaceTime you. Like, it always feels like the wrong time. But something that I've learned since being here is that you just need to not worry about that. Phone calls home make all the difference, especially when you're having like a down day. So definitely make sure you schedule those calls from home. Another thing that I found really difficult here is finding a job. Believe it or not, I've actually been made redundant twice since being here. I actually lost my second job back in January, but that wasn't to do with like the job market. That was purely down to a business restructure. So I had no other option but to let me go. In saying that, I do have a job now. I'm content and PR manager at a health and wellness company that is just on a contract basis. So my job is due to finish in March next year. So I will have to have a look for something new, but I did find that job on LinkedIn, so I definitely recommend looking there. I also hear so many good things about Indeed. Just make sure you have your profile set up and your CV is up to date, because recruiters will ring you. And then there's other like recruitment consultancies that a lot of my friends have used, and they have found jobs as well. So I'd say A third thing that I found really hard is the social. It doesn't help that I work remotely. My team are based in Toronto, so it's not like I can meet them for a coffee. Highly recommend finding a hybrid job, because if you're like me and you will happily hang out with your work colleagues outside of work, then that will definitely help as an expat. There is also a trend here in Vancouver that people say it's really difficult to make friends. Like, people do tend to stick in their bubbles, but then I feel like it's like that everywhere, especially as you get older. If you're not down the pub every Friday, or if you're not going to a run club, like, it is so difficult to make friends as an adult. You've just got to put yourself out there. You join that club, because the first time you go, that's it, you've done it. And you'll be surprised at how quickly you can build those connections. Saying that, because it has been difficult, and because I am working remotely and I don't have a team that I can go and hang out with outside of work, I did start hosting expat meetups, which I'd done a ton of during the summer. I was hosting them monthly, and I was working with other brands local to the area, just as a chance for us to all just to like connect and meet up for coffee, go for drinks, go for dinner, and just chat about our experiences. And that done wonders for me, and I think it did for everyone else too. So I definitely want to pick that back up in the new year. I'll drop a link to that page down below. If you want to come along, please message, and I would happily add you to the chat. Another thing I would say that I find difficult is Vancouver is a very outdoorsy place. All the trails that you get to go hike, all the lakes that you get to go see, the views, everything, it is such a magical place. It's one of the reasons why I moved here, but because of that, it means that if you're not skiing in the winter time, finding activities to keep you sane during the darker days is quite tough. And that's what I find really difficult, because those are the days where I just pop in to go see my family for a cup of tea and feel like I don't have to do anything, which is why you need to make sure you make friends so that you can go for dinner at their house, go for a cup of tea or something, because when it rains, it rains. A lot of people will tell you it's Vancouver, which they're not wrong, but then at the same time, I feel like the weather here is quite similar to the UK. It's just making sure that you have other things to do just to keep you busy and stop you from feeling homesick, because it's definitely the winter time that I tend to feel the most homesick. How do you find a place to live? Where to live completely depends on preference. We didn't want to sign any sort of lease until we knew exactly what neighbourhood we wanted to live in. Before we moved here, we didn't know anyone that lived in Vancouver to give us any sort of advice for the good and the bad neighbourhoods. So we stayed in an Airbnb for a month, and we were living in Surrey. It fit the purpose at the time, because it allowed us just to get our bearings, get a few of the admin stuff sorted, and then explore potential neighbourhoods. We took a trip to downtown, discovered places like English Bay, New Westminster, Burnaby, Kitsilano is exactly where the expats are. So many young professionals are there, although that then comes at a cost. I've got friends paying $3,000 a month for an unfurnished apartment, usually a one bed, which isn't cheap. But then equally, where is cheap? Prices were like that even back in the UK. So if you head a little further afield in the Tri-Cities, for example, which is a combination of Port Moody, Port Coquitlam and Coquitlam, rent starts at least 1.9. So there's a significant difference. But again, there's a sacrifice, because if you're downtown, that's where everyone else is. There's a lot more going on. You have a better social life, whereas if you're in the Tri-Cities, yes, it's cheaper, but you are further away, but then it is a lot cheaper. So it depends what you'd rather. Saying that, at the time, Dan was working for a company out in Abbotsford. They were about 2 hours from downtown, no, an hour and a half from downtown. So we didn't decide to live anywhere like English Bay or Kitsilano, because it meant that his commute would be so long. So we are now living out in the Tri-Cities, which is probably about a 45-minute drive from town. You're a little bit on the outskirts, but you're close to all the mountains. We love it here, but there are a lot of negatives to it in a way, just purely based on the social, because when you do make friends and they will live downtown, the thought of commuting an hour just to meet for a coffee can sometimes feel quite hard to do when you live so far away. And also you get so much FOMO, because come summertime, there are so many like beach parties or picnics down the park, an awful lot that goes on, and it's such a good way to make friends. But when you live so far away from those things, it's quite hard to look beyond the commute. It's also good to know that a lot of the apartments here are unfurnished. They only have white goods, so you will be expected to furnish them. Facebook Marketplace is really good here though. And there's also a big IKEA and another shop called Wayfair, which I love. It's reasonably priced furniture that's also brand new. And there's a ton of secondhand shops like Value Village that have some really nice bits, and also Home Sense and Winners. So yeah, there's a lot. That's also something that you should bear in mind, because when you have to get everything from a sofa to a set of cutlery, like there's so many things that you forget that you need to buy. And I guess it's things like that that you also forget to consider when it comes to the outgoings, because moving abroad also isn't cheap. There's a lot of things you need to pay for. I think the last point is not feeling like you can settle. I kind of feel like moving country is like going to university again. You spend the first year getting all the boring life admin stuff sorted. So you find your car, you get your job, you get your cell phone sorted, you get your driver's license. There are so many things that add up, and they also take time. So the sooner you can get on that and get those things done, the better. And you can enjoy having fun and doing the things that made you want to move in the first place. And next year, a year's gone by, and second year you then spend like having a lot of friends and family visit you. So you spend an awful lot of that repeating the places that you've been, only because you feel like you're in a place where you're confident enough to show people around. What else is there? So I think that's everything that I have. If you have any other questions that you want me to answer, I am more than happy to answer them. Just drop them below or message me on Instagram, because if there's anything that I can do to help, I would love to help. If you are thinking about moving country and you're indecisive, I highly, highly recommend that you do it, because for me anyway, it's the best thing I've ever done. Whether it be 6 months to a year to 2 years to more, I definitely think it's something that everyone should try and do if they can. Not to say it's been easy, it's been mentally challenging, but the things that I've learned and how much I've grown outweighs everything. So yeah, if there's anything that I can do to help make that decision, then please let me know, because I will gladly help you.